last time that we caught up with you, I just cut out, sorry.
I think Betty might be struggling.
I'm going to try and let her ask a question, Oscar.
I am having bad internet issues. Oscar, it is terrible down here in Manchester.
Down here in Manchester? Hang on. Down here in Manchester. Okay.
Oh, God. My geography isn't great, is it?
I was going to say, if that's down, where do you consider up?
Oscar, you can tell you're a regular co-host on this podcast when you're pulling up Betty Glover on things. That's excellent work from you.
Hello and welcome to The Fast and the Curious with me, Betty Glover.
Me, active and practising Formula One fan, Christian Hugill.
And me, team principal Greg James, desperately trying to hold this ship together.
You're clinging on for dear life.
To the wreckage.
To the wreckage.
No, it's a wonderful, wonderful boat.
She's a fine vessel.
She really is, and she's got plenty more miles in her.
No, guys, we don't like calling things she, do we?
I didn't call it she, he did.
No, boats are always a she, apparently. That's the thing.
I think you're outdated, and I think you're sexist. Welcome to The Fast and the Curious.
But look, we're back in the studio after adding Sebastian Vettel to our long list. Oh my God, you've got him going. I don't think we're ever going to bring him back from this.
Oh,
Sorry.
I love making him laugh. It's like making a dog laugh.
Yeah, it is. He is like a golden retriever, isn't he? Just like,
So when you
so
you rub a dog's belly and it just goes, well, all right then, and just goes.
yeah, on its back.
That's where he is. I could keep tickling him for an hour and he'd just be down
But
here.
I don't think that would be good viewing for the YouTube listeners or good listening for the podcast listeners.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would do well on socials.
Well,
Me
maybe.
tickling Christian. Could do a live tickle
God.
along on TikTok. Tickles.
Tickle along.
Tickle along on TikTok.
Tickle talk.
Tickle talk. Anyway, we're back in the studio.
We are.
After adding Sebastian Vettel to our long list of world champions that we've had on this podcast. That was a nice chat with him, wasn't it?
I think he's a fantastic man. I thought he was really calm, really interesting, really funny. He said the name of the podcast, which was exciting.
That was incredible.
There was a lot of chat, lovely chat around the Sebastian interview from our listeners, talking about when F1 creeps into your real life.
Oh, yeah.
And
Excellent.
I love that chat. It's so interesting to see how it seeps into everyone. And actually, you mentioned before we started recording today that it made you notice something in your life.
I saw that we posted this on Instagram and thought, I don't think I really do one of these. Then I was walking to the studio today. It started raining. I stopped to get my brolly out of my bag, and as I stopped, in my head went, box, box, box. And I was like, oh no, I do it! If ever I need to stop,
God.
if ever I need to stop doing anything, subconsciously my brain goes, box, box.
Well, I overtake people. Like, I will go into DRS zone and I will overtake people. But have you ever been at Euston when you're trying to race for the first off-peak train?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, it's hell on earth. Like, it is hell on earth. And I'm like, right, let's go. But I'd never say box, box, box in my head.
Well, because you want to... The thing about racing for a train is you don't want to look pathetic.
No.
Because it is ultimately pathetic, doing fast chicken
yeah.
walk too, but you have to sort of act cool enough so people next to you be like, oh, maybe they're just walking fast or maybe they're being pathetic, and there you are because you're just trying to get your head down, nip in and go for the undertake sometimes.
You've got to be tactful.
We've had quite a few people telling us how F1 infiltrates their lives, including the former Sauber head of strategy who commented on our Instagram post, Ruth Buscombe. And Ruth said that she says DRS, says it out loud to indicate to her travel partner that they're going round. So if you're on a thin pavement and there's some soup, just go DRS and walk round the people.
But that's only if they're a second behind the person in front.
Yeah.
That's important.
Obviously.
No, that's important.
Well, I
though.
hope Ruth is incorporating that
Yeah, I
into
hope so, Ruth.
when she's doing it. Ruth.
I hope so, because I know Ruth listens to a few of these podcasts and stuff, so I do hope you take it seriously, okay? Because you can only use DRS in the DRS zone, and when you're a second behind the person
Let's
in
just
front.
establish what's happening here. Greg's telling a former Formula One team head of strategy how DRS works.
Yeah, no cheating, Ruth. Danny says, we taught our 2-year-old to come and have a mouthful of food when we say box, box. It works like a dream every time.
So we're pitting kids here, and you're pitting yourself.
I'm pitting myself quite frequently.
And like when you're changing your shoes, are you thinking I'm changing tyres?
Oh, good question.
Because these are a new set of softs, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah.
They've only had a run
They
out
are
once,
soft, 'cause
I reckon.
genuinely, press,
They are soft,
squidge
yeah.
that in here, look.
Yeah, you've got a new set of softs on.
I've got a new set of softs
Wow.
on.
It's going to be heavy
They
deg on those.
they are incredibly white.
So white, aren't they? This is the second
fresh.
time these trainers have been worn for the podcast, and the second time they've been noticed. Box fresh.
Very white.
Guess who's been on this topic?
Who?
Is it Dan Fallows?
It's not Dan Fallows, no.
But he would love this level of
Love it, yeah,
conversation.
The Dan Fallows.
Tesco have been on.
The Tesco.
The Tesco. We didn't have loads of Instagram comments, but we had a couple, and every little helps.
Oh, Christ.
We actually had many Instagram comments. But anyway, Tesco have been on to react to Sebastian Vettel saying this on the podcast.
When you're driving, do you sort of subconsciously take the racing line around a country lane? What does that still happen?
Yeah, the racing line happens. I mean, obviously it depends if it's, heavy traffic and stuff, you can't really do it. But cutting a corner here and there, yes. And I don't think it's illegal either. But I've calmed down a lot. I mean, I was racing in the past in the supermarket, trying to be the first and, overtake the final meters to get actually and stuff like that. But I've calmed down. I need to be responsible nowadays. I'm a father of 3 kids, so I need to set an example as well. But every now and then, little bits still creep into life, for sure.
That may have just been a throwaway Instagram comment from somebody on the Tesco account. Tesco, if you're listening or watching, can we do this, please? Can we make one of your trolleys more like aerodynamic? Can
Race
we
ready.
How would we do it, though? What would we do?
Well, they need to be lowered immediately.
Yeah,
That's what I'd
to
say.
the floor.
And what's the thing at the plank?
It needs a plank underneath. It needs to be lowered.
Yeah.
It needs some side pods, and it needs front and rear wing.
Yeah, it does. It also needs
New tyres.
Yeah,
Definitely.
We'll pop some mediums
They're
on it.
quite small, the Tesco
What, are you putting
tyres.
full-size F1 tyres
I
on it?
think, yeah, stick some big ones on there.
So therefore, we need to
great.
test this if they are that big in a Tesco Extra. Now, listen, I've got nothing against a Tesco Metro, but this would need to be a Tesco Extra.
Well, they don't have trolleys at Tesco Metro normally.
No.
No, that's true. They don't. Great point and well presented. I'm glad you've said it. So,
Can you imagine like one of these bad boys on
Yeah. Well, I think we should get some big tyres on a Tesco trolley.
make this shopping trolley the best shopping trolley that anyone's ever seen?
You know, you've got a weird thing about weird names for teams. Like,
Yes.
You don't like Visa Cash Strap, or whatever it's called, or Steak.
No one likes
Steak and
Visa
Freeze.
Cash Strap.
But what if suddenly a Tesco team turned up in Formula One?
Headed by
Yeah.
us.
Headed by us.
Do you think that like a top would be £50, but if you had a club card, it'd be like £20 if Tesco had a...
Honestly, I just think they'd have a Tesco Extra at Silverstone.
Be handy.
Really,
Would
really
be handy. It's like when they have a co-op at festivals.
I actually think it would make the sport more accessible.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it would make the sport really accessible.
well,
Loads of people would go.
food for thought.
Food for thought.
Whatever
Very
the
good.
man who's in charge of it called. What's he called? Something.
Dr. Alan Tesco originated from Berkshire.
No, the man who's in charge of F1.
Oh. Stefano Domenicali.
Him.
Yes.
Well, we also spoke to Vettel about whether or not that he would potentially drive for Mercedes if, the opportunity came about. And Toto Wolff has actually said that he wouldn't discount him.
I meant what I said. I know I said it in a jovial tone to Seb when I was like, you wouldn't say no. I was right. If that is offered to Sebastian Vettel, he's not saying no. So I'm firmly stand by that. Can I say something that I don't like saying?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
As long as it's not sexist
Okay.
and outdated.
Homophobic. I don't think Seb was necessarily performing at his highest level by the end of his career. So I would be worried as a fan of Sebastian. Like when they talk about bringing back the US office and people go, just leave it. It was really good. Maybe just leave it. I wouldn't want Seb to tarnish his legacy.
I also think that you sort of want the sport to move on, don't you? And you want to bring through the younger people, not necessarily saying that you'd put, an inexperienced guy in that Mercedes seat, but it all sort of, it all moves together, doesn't it? And so if you're bringing back, an amazing driver like Sebastian Vettel, great, but then you're not allowing space for new people to come through.
Yes, but so this was the exact point I made when Fernando Alonso came back. I was like, I'm not sure this is adding anything to the sport, because before Fernando came back with Alpine, we'd last seen him at McLaren, where he constantly looked miserable. He didn't look like he was having a good time. And I'm like, well, what's Fernando adding? And actually, since Fernando's come back to the sport with Alpine, but then especially with Aston Martin, he's added a huge amount to the sport. So you are right, but also let's not discount what these older drivers do give us. So I think it's a common social media argument you see there of, oh yeah, but we shouldn't be having these old guys. It should be all about the young kids. I don't agree fully. I think the likes of Lewis and Fernando give us so much. I wouldn't be bringing Seb back specifically, to be honest, if I was Toto Wolff. That's nothing against Sebastian Vettel, who is a legend.
And I also do like it when you see the older sports stars helping out the younger ones. It does give them something to aspire to as well, and it is inspirational.
Yeah, you need it, don't you?
For someone like Oscar Piastri to be on the grid next to Lewis Hamilton and go, oh my God, I literally watched this guy as a kid. This is amazing. You want to emulate them, and you want to try and beat them, and it's quite fun for them to play alongside them. Same with cricket. Sometimes the same with football, I guess. It's difficult because you do sort of burn out a little bit.
Well,
here's a good example. Well, can I just give you an example?
I was going to give you an example, but you give an example.
From WrestleMania last weekend. The Rock, The Undertaker, John Cena, Triple H, all involved somehow in it, and they came back and they did some matches and all the rest of it, and did some stuff in the ring, and but it sort of does, and to your point, it boosts the spectacle a little bit, and it allows for the younger people to have a go at the big old guy and try and take them out, and actually that makes them more famous because oh my God, he beat The Rock or whatever.
Better example than mine.
It's quite it's quite interesting in sport when that happens.
No, it is. I think it is really good. And in football, though, it happens all the time where you've got like a legend on the pitch, and then you've got players. This happened the other day where a player at half time asked for someone's shirt. Cannot remember who it was, but they were doing that at half time. You're asking for your opposition players' shirts. Like, come on, at least wait until full time.
Yeah.
But it's you make a good point. It's
but
interesting.
Even, I don't know, wrestling is not necessarily a sport, but in terms of the entertainment value of it and also the spectacle, I think it does help. And also just to have those guys around. We saw the value of having Jenson Button around at Williams at the start of the season.
Yeah.
It's amazing for Logan Sargent to be able to knock on Jenson Button's door and be like, can you tell me about what it's like to be a Formula One driver? It's just good to have those people around, and they're famous, legendary characters.
And look at the impact the late, great Niki Lauda had on Mercedes, and then becoming a force in F1, and Lewis Hamilton, absolutely. But you know what we've not done yet?
What?
It's say what's coming up on the show, Betty Glover.
That is a very good point. Betty, what is coming up today?
Well, we've got a big episode coming up. We've got one of our favourite drivers back on the podcast, somebody that Sebastian Vettel said has a very good future ahead of him. We've already mentioned him. It's Oscar Piastri.
Hey.
We're catching up with him as well.
Love Oscar.
And it also gives me actually the first opportunity to do this in the studio.
Uh-oh.
McLaren News!
Oh.
Just think we maybe need to get a singing teacher in, just for the pitching.
Why would you? I
want you to get there.
I don't know why you'd waste the podcast resources on perfection. It's already there, isn't it? I don't.
McLaren, as you know, McLaren.
Sure.
Go.
McLaren.
No, McLaren.
No,
listen.
No, that's just a microwave.
No.
Oh my God.
Not quite getting. McLaren News.
McLaren News. McLaren News.
Shall I carry on with our menu?
I think so, yeah.
We've also got somebody on that with a story that producer Jimmy says is the absolute best story when it comes to parents and grandparents.
Okay. Oh, I
and
see.
their
Yeah,
interactions.
Because saying something's the best story ever.
Well,
is
Jimmy
a real
basically says this is the best story
setting
ever.
up for a fall. But
I know this story.
Oh, do you?
And and I'm excited to see your reaction. And largely the greatest story ever told is normally Jesus, isn't it? I think this is better than the story of baby Jesus.
This is obviously because Alex Albon's grandparents bumped into Lando Norris at the airport, and his nan was just ecstatic. She was so excited. So Christian wanted to know if anyone's got any good interactions. And
it's brilliant.
Olivia has come in with a good one, apparently.
A story better than the birth of Christ. And trust me, I am a Christian, coming up later in the podcast.
speaking of Christians, this is a new section of the podcast that we're going to be calling Christian's Admin.
Hello there.
God.
Which, in other words, is just going to church if you are a Christian. That's the main admin there. But what does your admin entail today? Thanks for laughing, Betty.
Yeah, you know how the last episode of the podcast, for anyone watching or seeing the clips on socials, will have seen we were at home with our home setups.
Yes.
When I was at home, I have a background that's soundproofing for the room. And I had...
Of course he does.
Well, I'm a professional, thank you. Now, Stop laughing at my soundproofing. Now, I had placed something within that soundproofing that's very, very small, right? And it's not like, Greg, when you were showing off your Tracy Island thing in the background of your room, that's very big. I put something that was really small in the soundproofing, not expecting it to be a thing. Sarah sent us this on Instagram. In the Japan debrief episode, brackets, which I watched on YouTube, was that a mini figure of George Russell on Christian's soundproofing? Well, as we've said, it's an amazing spot, and there is, in fact, a tiny figure in the background of where I record on this. So for more on this, let's cross live now to me, Christian Hugill, in the podcast room. Christian. Studio Christian, thank you very much. May I say you're looking particularly lovely today. Now, welcome back to the podcast room. And as you can see, in my soundproofing behind is this figure. As we've just said, a brilliant spot by Sarah. This figure was given to me as a gift by my dear friend Chris, who is, like me, a fellow Formula One geek. Chris found him in an antique shop, believe it or not. But who is he? He's not George Russell. Who is my little figure hidden within the soundproofing? Fast Curious Pod, if you'd like to guess. And before you ask, no, I'm not going to bring it close to the camera and show it. It's meant to be hard. F1's a harsh business. Who is the little figure? Fast Curious Pod, and if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you check this out on social media and YouTube, because you could be in with a chance of playing this thrilling game too. And with that, it's back to studio-based Christian Hugill.
That's the stupidest thing we've ever done.
No, you're being rude. We've not thanked Christian. Christian, for now, thank you.
Christian, you're having a conversation with yourself, mate.
Yes, I am.
You're having a breakdown.
God, are you
Pre-recorded,
okay?
my pre-recorded self. So,
By the way, I am, as team principal, fully in support of that.
Thank you very much.
If anything, more of that, please.
Thank you.
Really fantastic.
I'm happy to have conversations with myself. Maybe I could adopt different characters, but anyway, it's a bit Michael Scott, that, isn't it? But anyway, now, Sarah has had the first... This is going to be a new thing that we're
crossing
doing.
live to yourself from the past?
Maybe, right, but not specifically. This is going to be a new thing, which I've called Guess the Dinky Driver.
Oh,
Now,
fuck.
Sarah has had the first guess. Sarah has had the first guess. Can I have silence in the room, please? I'm trying to launch a new thing. Sarah has guessed George Russell.
Yeah.
It is not George Russell. Betty, you are going to get a guess now as to who the Dinky Driver is. If you don't get it, we're going to pass it to the listeners, and we'll have one question each week until we get it. And if this needs to roll on for 6 seasons,
God help us.
then it will, right? And the podcast can't stop until the end. Now, I have got some breaking news that you're not aware of. Before Betty got here today, Greg James had a guess.
Oh, and he got it straight away.
Straight away.
Of course he did.
So Greg
I couldn't believe it.
is disqualified from the game.
If you're listening to this on a podcast app, because this is a podcast after all, then you can have a look on the Fast and Curious socials for that, because we'll put it on there and you can have a little guess.
Was it there when I was in your home
No, it's
studio?
new.
It's new, right?
It's new. This
new.
person's just moved in.
Given to me by my friend Chris. It's new.
Dinky person's just moved in.
Is the driver
Right, now,
No.
stop,
currently
stop,
driving?
stop.
We're not doing clues.
Not doing clues. Listen to the format.
Yeah,
You're
okay,
allowed one guess. From next week, listeners will be allowed one question and one guess. So you're allowed one guess. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first Guess the Dinky Driver, well, the second, because it's not George Russell. Ladies and gentlemen, Guess the Dinky Driver with Betty Glover.
I'm going to the pub if she gets this right immediately.
Okay.
Zhou Guan Yu.
It's not Zhou Guan Yu. So join us next week for Guess the Dinky Driver.
God help us.
Is that the end of Christian's admin?
That's the end of Christian's admin.
All right, okay, fantastic. Shall we now speak to a fantastic guest on this podcast? This, very much like your live insert, was recorded not today. So I will disappear because I was
Yes.
unavailable because it's early morning. But let's welcome back to the podcast one of our absolute favourites. It's Oscar Piastri.
Oscar Piastri, welcome back to the Fast and the Curious. Firstly, I think we've all got to say happy birthday for the other day.
Happy birthday, Oscar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How was it? What did you do? Did you celebrate?
I got to drive an F1 car, so that's a pretty good way of celebrating.
Nice, lovely, yeah.
I
Right.
qualified pretty poorly, so that was not a very good birthday present to myself. And that was about it. So, yeah, I think it's the first time I've had a birthday at a racetrack for, well, I lie. I had a birthday at a racetrack last year, but it was at a test. So, it's the first time I've had it at a race, I want to say ever, or certainly for a very long time. So, based on the results this year, I don't recommend it again, but I'm sure that's me just being a superstitious racing driver.
It's also you being quite harsh on yourself, which I want to come back to in a bit. But firstly, I've got issue to take up with McLaren. And as their spokesperson, I'm going to have to take this up with you, Oscar, because you're aware, I love McLaren and I love you, but I'm quite cross with them because I understand they bought you a cake that said getting old. You are 23. For a 32-year-old gentleman, this terrified me. Who was responsible for this? And please say to me that you told them off.
No, I think I said I was getting old as I got delivered the cake.
Oh,
The cake was of a Michael Jordan Bulls jersey.
right. I've misunderstood this.
Yes. So as the McLaren spokesperson, I forgive you. You are mistaken.
But no, hang on a minute. You said you're getting old, so I actually have issue with you. So you're not getting old. You're 23, okay?
Exactly. I've taken my McLaren cap off. Now you can address it with me.
Now you can speak on behalf of Oscar Piastri. How do you respond to the allegations that you've upset me because you're 10 years younger than me?
The fact that there's now people born in the 2010s and they're teenagers is scary.
Oh,
Very scary. Like,
it's...
the fact that I can remember what I was doing before 2010 and there's now people that are teenagers, like they're nearly old enough to drive, a few years off, but close. That's, for me, that's kind of getting old, I would say, when you remember things before people of a decent age were born. That's...
Sort of see what you're getting at. Yeah, I was at uni in 2010. You're right. No, you're right. That is terrifying. All right, I hold my hands up. You're right. Yeah, okay. I'm just really old.
Swiftly moving on.
Last time that we caught up with you, I just cut out, sorry.
I think Betty might be struggling.
I'm going to try and let her ask a question, Oscar.
I am having bad internet issues. Oscar, it is terrible down here in Manchester.
Down here in Manchester? Hang on. Down here in Manchester. Okay.
Oh, God. My geography isn't great, is it?
I was going to say, if that's down, where do you consider up?
Oscar, you can tell you're a regular co-host on this podcast when you're pulling up Betty Glover on things. That's excellent work from you.
Look, Oscar, last time we caught up was at Silverstone, which is down south. You had a little bit of a viral moment on our podcast because Greg James asked you, wouldn't it be nice if Lewis Hamilton won the World Championship? And you got a bit sassy, as you should, by the way. Excellent response.
Wouldn't it be incredible if Lewis Hamilton won this year at Mercedes?
No, it would not be incredible.
No.
What are you talking
but
about?
in terms
It's
of
a brave
in
thing to
terms of
say in
the-
a
in terms of
McLaren
the
interview,
story-
isn't it?
In terms of the story.
Yeah,
I think Oscar Piastri winning first world championship is a much better
that's going to
story.
happen.
That would
We've got
be
loads of
epic.
time. He's 40.
Did you know that you went viral?
Yeah, I did see that it was I went a bit viral because of that. I think having the video there was very essential. But yeah, I mean, I had to put Greg in his place. It wouldn't be very cool. And I still maintain my story. So neither of those things are looking very likely, let's be honest. But we'll keep going with it.
Oh yeah, you weren't the issue there. It was Greg James that people were getting at. People got very cross with Greg. Like people thought it like drastically offended you, and also I think people thought he was a serious Formula One journalist as well. There was lots of how dare that F1 reporter say that. So I'm not sure that's quite his vibe. But you weren't that upset, I don't think.
No, I was not.
Away from Greg James, Oscar Piastri, Australian Grand Prix, which you take a particular interest in, what with being Australian. How was it with year 2 compared to year 1? How did you find it? Because your home Grand Prix can be a daunting experience.
It was very cool. some good results for the whole team, which was pretty cool. The fans were still just as passionate, which was very cool. There was even more papaya in the grandstands, which was also very special, so that was appreciated. Our car was much quicker than the last time we were there. That helped. So, yeah, it was just a good weekend all round. Yeah, really enjoyed it. It was nice to be back home for the week. And with the schedule this year, it's kind of been nice to... like I stayed out in Australia afterwards for a week, so that was nice to spend a bit of time at home. But yeah, second edition of my home race for me was definitely a better success than the first one on every front, I would say. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Did your grandma make you any more of those little cake things?
Rumbles and Lamingtons, yes. So she made a whole bunch for the team. And the team very kindly ate them all without saving me one. So my grandma had to go back to the supermarket on Saturday night and whip up some more for when I saw her on Sunday. So I had my own little box of Rumbles afterwards, but yeah, they were extremely popular.
We're a couple of races into your second season, aren't we, Oscar? Everything sort of on and off the track feels like it's just getting bigger and bigger for you. Bigger crowds, more fans. It feels like it's sort of stepped up a notch. Are you getting used to that at all?
I think most things are definitely more comfortable. Like, you know, I know everyone in the team now. I know what to expect from the year. I kind of just know what to expect in the world of F1 now. So from those things, it's definitely a bit more comfortable this year. You lose the rookie tag of being able to use that as an excuse. Not that I ever really did, but people expect a bit more from you just because it's your second year. So I guess that bit is maybe slightly different, but I think for the most part it's just much more comfortable in the sense of knowing what to expect. Of course, it's not more comfortable in trying to perform or wanting to be successful. That aspect is still exactly the same, but just the sort of other things around it are a bit more comfortable now.
Even at the start of this chat, this was something I wanted to ask you about. And you even said at the start of the chat where you immediately said, like my qualifying on my birthday weekend wasn't great. And you and Lando are both quite good at this, I think, in terms of both being good at holding up your hands when you don't think you've performed as well as you could have done and go, right, I wasn't good enough there. How do you balance that as an F1 driver between doing that and being hard on yourself? Because still, by most people's accounts, in your second season in F1, you're doing a fantastic job. How do you balance holding yourself to account and wanting to improve as a top-level sportsman, but then also not being too hard on yourself?
It is a fine line, I think. I think for me, it's kind of always how I've worked, I guess. And yeah, for me, that's just always the best way to go about things. I think in motorsport, like, there's so many things that you can blame, but that you can use as an excuse. There's kind of like the half serious but half true, like, book of racing driver excuses that you can pull out if you really want. But I think for me, it's kind of always how I've just tried to develop. And I think sometimes, like, the car can be bad or whatever can be bad. The engine could be bad, but at the same time, like, if you just always blame that, then you're never going to improve yourself. For the position we're in, for example, we're probably half a second off Red Bull. We could easily just say, well, we're half a second off Red Bull, we're never going to, get there. But that's not, like, it's not going to be useful, because hopefully one day we will get there and we'll need those little hundredths of a second or tenths of a second to be able to beat them. So, yeah, I think for me that's always kind of just been the best way of going about it and how you grow as a driver, really.
Oscar, you've got a very wise head on your shoulders for a 23-year-old, and obviously we are such fans of yours on this podcast, and we've said so many times that we've been following you since literally day one of our podcast, day one of your career. We are going to go a bit mad, I think, when you win your first race. We were talking about this the other day, that, like, we've become so sort of Oscar fanboys that I think when that first win comes, we're going to be like spraying champagne from rooftops and things, quite literally. Like we're fully on board the Oscar hype now.
I know you're laughing, Oscar, but when this happens, I am going to go mad. I'm going to be spraying champagne literally everywhere, all around my house.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully we can win a race sooner rather than later. That would be good. But yeah, thank you very much for the support. I mean, I'm going to ignore the Mercedes cap that's in the background there and just focus on the McLaren one, but that's okay.
There is a signed Oscar Piastri cap in the background,
Oh,
don't
is there?
worry,
Good.
but there's one that
Okay.
represents each team. But
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
no, it's a cap that's been in your hands. Max Verstappen held me to account on a background because he saw a Mercedes one in there as well. But no, everybody's evenly represented. Speaking of them, I'm interested in your opinion on this. I've seen differing accounts across the paddock of Red Bull this year in terms of Toto Wolff saying, no one's touching Max this year. I saw Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz both say after the last race, actually, we think we might be able to get a bit closer towards the end of the season, middle of the season. Obviously, McLaren seem to me to be the third quickest car at the moment. Where do you stand with that balance? Is anyone going to be able to get close to them this year? Could it be you guys?
I mean, I hope it's us. I think generally everyone, well, certainly the sort of teams around us, seem to be a bit closer to Red Bull. I think we still have a decent amount of work to do, but we're definitely closer than I think we were last year. You know, you look at the qualifying delta even in Japan. I think last year we were like half a second off Verstappen for pole, and this year I think Lando was just under 0.3. So we're getting closer. I would say there's a bit more optimism around everyone, I would say, to try. Well, maybe not Toto, but
They're having a hard time, so we'll let him off.
Ferrari and us, I would say. I think there's definitely optimism that we can try and take the fight to them later in the year. I mean, I think the thing is they're a very well-oiled machine and team. So, you know, just trying to beat them, they don't get it wrong very often. So we need to be quick and be able to be on level playing ground there. But also, you know, we need to. They're not going to be an easy team to beat. They're not just going to go, oh, here you go, here's a win. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I think there's optimism from a few different camps that we can try and take the fight to them later in the year.
Whilst we've got you, Oscar, I've got to talk to you about cricket, because if we don't, Greg is going to absolutely kill me and Christian. So you and Greg have been talking on Instagram again about cricket because you posted a crickety picture and somehow the discussion started happening about Greg, Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad and yourself going in the nets together. Are we on for that? Is that going to happen?
I am more than happy to watch Greg face Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson. I will not be getting anywhere near them.
Seems fair enough, actually. I don't think I would.
Yeah, I mean, I value my life and my limbs, so he says as he's a Formula One driver. But anyway.
Great point. It's a bit more immediate, though, a ball coming to your face, isn't it? It's just, I just can't see what you mean.
Maybe we can. I mean, only if they bowl at like quarter pace, though. It'd be cool to meet them, I guess. I mean, of course, I'd have to tell them that they weren't as good as some of the Aussies, but that's just a given.
No, sure.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, Oscar, we're going to make this happen, I reckon.
All right.
We're on it. We'll report back to the team principal. Let's see if we can make this happen. Stranger things have happened on this podcast, Oscar. They really have. So we'll have a go.
The next race is the Chinese Grand Prix, Oscar. You haven't raced in China yet, have you? Because it's been 5 years since F1's been there. So are you looking forward to that?
I am, yes. It'll be my first time in China full stop, so I'm looking forward to experiencing that and seeing what it's like. Yeah, the track looks interesting. Not particularly friendly for our car, if I'm being honest, but we'll see. Hopefully we're pleasantly surprised. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend because it's a sprint weekend. No one's driven there for 5 years, like you said. It'll be my first time, so there's a lot of sort of variables for the weekend. The sprint format is a bit different from last year as well, so there's that to get your head around. But yeah, hopefully it can be an exciting weekend.
I was going to ask you about that because it's a sprint weekend, which means only one free practice session, and it's not just you've never raced there, but Formula One hasn't been there for 5 years. The cars will have changed so much, obviously, in that time. How much of an impact will that have had? Because I've seen a few people getting a bit grumpy, saying that shouldn't have been a sprint weekend. Will that cause big problems, do you think?
It's difficult for the teams, definitely, to set up the car for that. I think the way the format is this year is a bit more forgiving. Last year, I think one of the issues that most of the teams and drivers had was once you finished practice, you couldn't adjust the setup from then on. So hopefully this year we won't have any kind of issues like that, because we will be able to change the car after the sprint. So if we want to change stuff, we can change it for Grand Prix qualifying and the Grand Prix. So I think from that aspect it'll be okay. Just if there's any track issues or it's the first time we're running this generation of car there. So there's some unknowns on how to react to curbs and bumps. I think that's kind of really our only concern, but I think it should be okay, and should be chaotic being a sprint.
Obviously, because you haven't raced at this track before, you've got to spend a lot of time on the sim, trying to get used to it, trying to learn about that. Is that a really draining process? I
think for me, it's like kind of a normal process before each race. The sim can be, it's in a dark room. You're doing a lot of laps, so it can be a bit draining. But it's kind of the best. Well, it's not kind of. It is the best way for us to prepare for a race. So I was in the sim yesterday, getting ready for it and learning the track more. So yeah, for me, it's just the normal process as part of the job. And yeah, it's how we try to go quicker.
Oscar, just finally, and by the way, I was as surprised at this as you are. I popped the little bit of the chat we had at Silverstone up on my TikTok the other day, where we were talking about our wisdom teeth operation, because we've had the same operation. We've got that in common. That went mad. People really enjoyed us talking about our teeth, which frankly baffled me, but it's lovely of people to be so interested. So firstly, your reaction to the fact people are really keen to hear about your teeth, and secondly, how is it with fewer body parts in the form of your teeth in the car this season?
It's nice. I think that people are interested in that.
Yeah, why not?
I'm still working it out, but sure. How is it with less body parts? It's okay. Carlos Sainz took out his appendix, won a race. So, you're
not there yet, though. You're not thinking.
Not at that stage yet.
No, sure.
I think everyone's probably thinking about it, but no, it's okay. I've not had any issues, which was the whole point of getting my teeth out. So that's been good. I don't think it's made me any faster. It maybe meant I could eat an extra cookie to make up the weight for my teeth.
Solid.
But that's about it, really. Yeah.
Oscar, we love having you on this podcast. And we and by the way, when we say this, we really mean it. Our listeners love you. You're such good fun to talk to, doing such a brilliant job on your second season. We're very proud of you. So honestly, we really appreciate you taking the time to check in with us. It's really, really good of you, because I know how busy you are and we don't take it for granted. So thank you, Oscar. And good luck in China. We'll be watching and hopefully if there is chaos, you won't be caught up in it.
Hopefully, yes. Thank you very much for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Oscar. See you later.
No worries. Thank you.
A truly fantastic man, one of my favourite co-hosts on this podcast. Oscar Piastri just goes from strength to strength. He is funnier than ever. He is driving better than ever. I love him. He's just a superstar in the making, and we're very proud to have him on this podcast.
It's also really nice when you get... I get asked a lot, what's XXX driver like? And it's so lovely to be able to say... They're lovely. Oscar's just the loveliest man, I'm sure you'll agree.
So, a couple of things.
Yeah.
Very, very pleased that he's up for having a net with Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad.
That's incredible. But no one in their right mind would turn that opportunity down.
That's true.
So...
Yeah, he doesn't want to stare a gift horse in the mouth. And that could be a potential podcast crossover event. Imagine that.
I'd love to go on Tailenders.
My dream come true.
Yeah.
Good luck with the BBC meetings with that one. But we can make it happen.
That'd be fine.
The other thing I'm really interested in is I want to talk more about this champagne moment.
Well, yeah, because look, we are claiming Oscar, aren't we, on this podcast? Because
Right.
he was the first interview that we've ever done.
Yeah.
So when he wins his first race, he's going to be incredible.
So I live on the second floor. So I said I'll spray champagne. Maybe I'll just do it out my bedroom window.
Yeah, I'll do it as well. We'll
Yeah,
all do it.
same. We'll all do it. We'll do it in here. We'll stand on the chairs.
So lovely chat with Oscar. What a man. We're going to have a lot of fun with him in the summer. Cricket-based fun, maybe.
Oh, God.
And now it's time for another guest.
Another guest, you
This
say?
time, this is Olivia, a listener to The Fast and the Curious, who, after your call out on social media about your grandparents meeting famous people, she's got a story for us. And Betty billed it as the greatest story ever told.
No, Greg. Sorry. Producer Jimmy
Right, okay,
billed
sorry,
it as
yeah.
the greatest story ever told.
Olivia, welcome to The Fast and the Curious.
Hello.
Hi, Olivia. Tell us about your story then. What is this? I'm sat on the edge of my seat with anticipation.
Well, I have a lot of pressure on me now, but I hope it's up to the standard.
Trust me, it is. It is.
Okay. So, a bit of context. I grew up in Switzerland, not too far from Geneva. And my dad, when I was really little, I was probably like 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm 31 now, for context. He took my brother and I to a water park in Switzerland. It's called Aqua Park.
Right.
Solid name, isn't it?
My dad is very much someone who likes to get to things early. He's very Swiss in that sense. So we got there at sort of before the doors opened to the theme park, Aqua Park. And there was only one other car in the car park next to us.
Ooh.
When the doors to the theme park opened and we got out popped Michael Schumacher and Mick Schumacher, and they so we were the first ones into Aqua Park alongside Michael and his kids. And apparently my dad said he wore amazing swimming trunks and he was the fastest down the slides.
Red swimming trunks. I
You'd hope
imagine.
so, wouldn't you?
I
They
imagine.
must have been.
It doesn't stop there, does it, Olivia? Because what happened throughout the day?
Well, we went on rides with them.
With them?
It was a long time ago, but my dad said that they were there and we spent the morning going down slides with them. I doubt Mick will remember any of this. He will not know who I am, but yeah, it was a fun day and it definitely happened. I rang my dad to like make sure I wasn't making this up in my head, but he definitely corroborated that it is true.
That is so good. Did your dad have like a digital camera that he carried around with him? I'm hoping so.
Sadly not. I spoke to him yesterday because I did
But it got
say,
wet.
do you have any evidence of this? Because this is almost too good to be believable. But he said that it was before he had a cell phone and it was, I mean, so long ago that we didn't have camera phones, let alone mobile phones. So, yeah, nothing to prove it.
There isn't huge motorsport history in Switzerland, and he said in interviews that it was one of the few places in the world that he could sit in a coffee shop and nobody would know who he was. So the fact that it's Switzerland and Olivia, it stacks up. So, and it's very niche to make it up. I don't think Olivia's a liar. I'm believing Olivia on this occasion.
Well, I'd like to ask your dad, like, was it an awkward moment? Like, did you guys just decide to follow them around the water park? Was it like or did they invite you to go on the slides with them? Like, I'd love to know how this came about.
I think that we were quite literally just the first people in. So it's highly likely that we went on the same rides to try and get on them first. My dad notoriously likes to beat the crowds. And I think that he thought that Schumacher wanted to do the same thing and probably also go a little bit unnoticed.
It's really nice. It's that Swiss precision that we've come to know and love. You know, they make great watches. Of course, obviously they're on time.
Yeah.
Olivia, before we let you go, I understand, despite this being a water park, there was a footballing element to your story.
Yes. My dad also told me, and I didn't know this until yesterday, that my dad didn't play football with Michael, but he played on the same football team that Michael played on just before him. So basically, Michael Schumacher played for the local football club that my dad grew up playing for in the off season.
He played, what position did he play?
He was a centre forward, apparently.
He was a centre forward. And
Wow.
also, this was another, again, growing up in the 2000s watching, this was another common piece of F1 knowledge for fans like me at the time, that Schumacher was an incredible footballer and was thought could have been a professional footballer had he not chosen to be a professional racing driver, Formula One driver. So again,
Wow.
all of Olivia's intel checks out with the resident F1 geek.
See, I would say actually, a little bit of football crossover, Betty, that all Formula One drivers really would think of themselves as strikers. That's the mindset they've got to have,
'cause
isn't it?
You've got to have that ego.
Yeah.
You've got to want to be the star in the team. And let's be honest, if you're a defender, even if you're a midfielder or keeper, you're not the star, are you? You're not
At a
up front.
push, an attacking midfielder,
Yeah.
but I don't think anything else.
Although I would say that Nico Hulkenberg has got the name of a centre-back.
Yeah.
I think he's got the name of the goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's a big keeper, isn't he?
Yeah.
A huge
Between
keeper.
the sticks. Yeah.
Olivia, before we do let you go, and we promise we will, tell us about your Formula One life, apart from going to water parks with Michael Schumacher. Have you listened to the podcast for long? How long have you been a proper F1 fan? When did it begin?
I have been listening since your very first episode, the day you launched it. Not a lie.
Thanks, Olivia.
That's all right. I'm a big F1 fan, huge. My husband got me into it during lockdown, and definitely a Drive to Survive girly, and not ashamed of that at all.
No, and nor should you be, Olivia. You'll have
Good
heard me
for you.
ranting about this, nor should you be.
Yeah, so I'm a Drive to Survive girly, and I am obsessed. I'm a big Lando Norris fan, big Oscar fan, so I'm very honoured that I'm going to be on the same episode as him. Tell him I say hi. And I'm going to my first race this year. I'm going to Silverstone for the first time.
Hey!
Come see us, Olivia. We'll be there.
Let's meet up.
Oh my God, please, can I come and see you?
We'll find the nearest aqua park.
Olivia, a joy having you on. Genuinely, thank you for listening since day one. That is massively appreciated, and it's lovely to talk to you. And we will definitely see you at Silverstone.
Yes, please, thank you. Thanks for having me.
See ya! Bye, 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 bye,
See you
bye,
soon.
bye.
Bye.
That's so nice. Listening since day one, and then became the podcast.
Became at one.
I don't think there's any point anyone else sending anything in. I think
Whatever.
Olivia's broken the internet.
Yeah,
Please-
so
please
please don't
do-
get in touch.
Yeah, please
Never
don't get in
contact
touch.
us again.
No, but
It's pointless now.
if anyone has a story that can beat that, let us know at Fast Curious Pod. Send your stories in. If you're deciding to get in contact and message us, you can also send us in listener questions for Christian
Hello
because he
there.
loves them.
Oh, I do love them.
We've got one this week, Christian. This
One.
one's from just the one.
Thank you to the listener who has got in touch. We do appreciate you.
We've got one question this week.
No one else bothered. This one is from
Because it's a busy
Sophie.
show, we just thought we'd do one because we've got lots on. We don't want to keep people for too long, do we? People have got lives to get on with.
I like it though. It's quite good Jeopardy. 'Cause
Yeah.
Make sure your question's good, because we're only going to do one.
Anyway, Sophie says, considering Williams' woes on the car damage front,
Williams'
if desperately needed, are F1 teams able to revert back to the previous year's car? I.e., if they can't get a second car ready for the next race in China, would they be able to send last year's car instead?
In Formula One history, there have been examples of teams using older chassis. But from the previous year, teams that have had relationships with other teams. In modern day Formula One, though, you don't see it happening. And the main reason for that is if Williams were to simply go and get last year's chassis, even though there's not been a major rule change from last year to this year, there's still been minor rule tweaks that basically mean last year's car wouldn't fit the technical specifications needed to race in this year's championship. So it would be against the technical rules. Also, it would be literally not worth bothering with because these cars take such a step forward over the winter that you literally might as well not bother as to run your old one. Everybody's taken such a step forward. You'd be so far behind. You'd be wasting an engine running around at the back. So it's technically not going to happen. It will be against the rules. And also, you'd just be too slow. So it's a very logical thought from Sophie, and it's not unheard of in F1 history, but it's not going to happen nowadays.
Christian, thanks for being an F1 encyclopedia again.
No, my pleasure. Always happy to be here.
Greg, thanks for...
We're not wrapping up just yet.
Oh.
It's race week. We're looking forward to China.
Well, it's
not-
race week next week.
Next week.
This is a segue.
Right.
Sorry, bear with me. This is a surprise segue.
Oh, right.
It's race week next week, but it's race week for us this week. or more specifically, it was race week for one Jimmy Blake, who is
Producer
the producer
Jimmy.
of this podcast. Now, Jimmy Blake, I'd like to invite you to the floor, please. Jimmy, come on
Come on in,
in.
Jimmy.
Let's have
Producer
him in.
Jimmy, everybody.
Producer Jimmy.
Do you want to
Because
share
we-
this mic with me, Jimmy?
This is the fast and the curious. He is a curious man. No, you share this one because it's more your side.
All right, sit there. Come
So,
on.
producer Jimmy,
Hi.
it was race week for you last week. Tell us the race that you were running,
The London Landmarks Half Marathon,
and tell us your time.
1 hour 36.
Oh, it's just
It's a
incredible.
fantastic time.
Unbelievable time.
Fantastic time. And what charity did you run for?
Calm.
Great charity. Very, very good charity. So well done on your achievement.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us some of the highlights of the race, please? One highlight in particular that I think the listeners would adore.
I think I know the highlight you're talking about is when I think it was about so it's 21 kilometers, about halfway through it when you're hitting a bit of a wall, and it's in the middle of London, and somehow
it's fenced off, isn't it? This is this is not just the roads are fenced off like the London Marathon.
yeah. So somehow out of nowhere, an Uber Eats delivery driver pulls in to the course, and I had a word because it was busy, and he was on a bike,
Which is famously banned in these situations. You're not allowed to get on a bike.
Can't do the Landmarks Half Marathon on a bike.
so I kind of said, "What are you doing, mate?"
Were you quite cross?
A little bit, because
Yeah.
he cut us up.
I've seen Jimmy be a little bit cross before. I can just imagine this.
Yeah, I can as well.
I was a bit tired
He
as well.
produces us. We've seen him cross many times.
What's really amazing about this is that I could only imagine how funny it was, and then this morning I saw that Jimmy posted it on his Instagram story, and you mentioned that like you nicked it off their website or something, didn't you?
Well, yeah, so they have official photographers like around it, and they take pictures of you to get so like mementos of it. Like, I didn't want to pay for it, but I was intrigued because I did clock that one of the photographers was near me when the cyclist arrived.
Now, you didn't want to pay for it. However, I did. I was really keen to pay for it, and I'd say it was £19.99 well spent because
He's right. That's how much it was.
I bought the digital mega bundle.
You bought all of them.
I bought all
Digital mega bundle.
the digital mega bundle. I own all the photos of you from that race.
You've been through all of them.
I've been through all of them.
There's some shockers in there.
But I don't care about. There's only one photo I care about, and for the YouTube viewers, we're displaying it now.
God.
For those that are listening, it's two sets of green barriers, a road. Is that St Paul's in the background?
It's the Bank of England.
It's the Bank of England. I don't know.
Yeah.
And to the left, a man on an orange bike with a big Uber Eats style thing on his back.
I feel so sorry for him. Like, look at the
Why?
shame that's in his face. He's like, oh no, I've really screwed up this, haven't I?
I'm not supposed to be here.
This pizza's gonna be late.
Where's my Uber Eats driver?
Oh my God.
Poor bloke. I want to find him.
Oh, we need to find him.
I basically want to find that guy because he has brought so much joy to me today. And so, can I just say another thing? Is in the digital mega bundle for £19.99 from the Marathon Photos company, you get access to race videos. So I'm going to get the whole video of your run.
You're going to watch an hour and a half.
I might do just to see that bit. So when I get
Look
that,
at his face.
when I get that footage,
Once you get the full thing, you'll see him arriving.
Yeah, you'll get the full thing. So
Amazing.
we can do like we could overlay it with some crofty
You know how
commentary.
Karoon does the breakdown of someone's qualifying lap? We can do that with it.
I do think Crofty would, and I do think Kroon would analyse it, and Crofty would commentate on it for us.
That'd be excellent. That'd be
We
excellent.
could probably get that time. So there he is. This is the gentleman in question who accidentally drove onto the track of a major London running event. If you know this driver, Fast Curious
Yeah.
Pod, we'd like to speak to him, please.
He had to do 21 kilometres before his delivery.
Wonder what his time was.
Do you know if he got out?
Yeah, I saw him get.
It's still
He
going
did
round.
get out.
Still stuck.
He's He's at St Paul's.
A pizza on the back.
So there you go. There's a little extra, a bit of fun, a bit of Fast and Curious race debrief from our Jimmy Blake. And Betty, if you wouldn't mind finishing the podcast, that'd be fantastic.
I was going to make a suggestion. As he did so well, maybe Jimmy should finish the podcast as a congratulations and well done for doing the marathon.
Oh, right, yeah.
like
Congratulations. Would you do Christian and Betty's job, please?
Well, how would you feel about that, Jimmy?
I can do it if you want.
Yeah, so to see us out,
That one.
put that one over the
Is that
camera
the
over
one
there.
you normally talk to?
That's the one we normally talk to. Producer Jimmy, everybody. Here we go.
I did know that. I produced it. Thanks very much for watching and listening to The Fast and the Curious. Thank you to Betty Glover, Christian Hugel, and team principal Greg James. We'll be back before the Chinese Grand Prix. What are we doing? Because it's no race week. What are we going to do? Anyone doing anything with a no race week? Christian, you sleeping?
What am I doing? Yeah, sleeping, but I've got a lot of China prep to do because we've not been there for years. So I'll be
5 years.
I'll be prepping.
You'll be prepping. Makes it sound like you're ready for the end of the world.
Yeah, I am.
Anyway,
I was reading about those people from Greg's wife Bella's Instagram story today. People who do prep for the end of the world.
and anyway, it's the end of the podcast as well. Thank you very much for listening and watching. This is The Fast and the Curious.